How's it going, chat? This is a new video series I wanted to start doing, calling it OVA, which stands for Original Video Afterward, and it'll basically be kind of like sequels to main videos in a way, because when I make my videos I try to keep them as short as possible so I can get them out as fast as possible, since I don't want to take forever to make them, but that also poses a problem because some of my points aren't as fleshed out. So these OVA videos will just be follow-up videos that flesh out my points from the main videos. And because I made a video on piracy, which people can be quite rabid about, I thought it'd be better to have my raw thoughts out there without being constrained by time or jokes. So yeah, just to start off, I really don't care if people pirate anime. I used to do it when I was in high school, and that was obviously because I didn't have any money. Piracy has always been morally grey, and I think especially when you're like a teenager with no money, it's really useful to get into franchises, and then when you grow up and you actually do have an income, then you can start paying for those franchises. This happened for me with Spice and Wolf. I watched the anime on Kiss Anime, and now I buy the books, I buy all the merch, I pay for the actual anime as well, but that's also a double-edged sword because a lot of people can become comfortable with pirating. I know I have a friend who basically only pirates anime, and he wouldn't really be watching them legally unless I shared my Crunchyroll high-dive passwords with him, and he doesn't buy much merch either. So at the end of the day, he's really taking more content than he's giving back to the animation studios. So yeah, that can be a double-edged sword, and then there's also the preservation side of things. There's a whole bunch of anime that's not legally available. And while I don't think it's wrong to pirate the anime, I also believe that anime is not a necessity, it's a luxury. Again, I don't think it's morally wrong, but I do think it's weird that people start acting smug. It's just like, oh, how am I supposed to watch this show when I can't get access to it? And it's like, you really don't have to? Again, this is another moral gray area, because in the future, these shows could be licensed again. Angel's Egg isn't available to buy anywhere, but sometimes it does pop up in cinemas. If you pirate it first, you are less likely to watch it later when it is brought back, but at the same time, you can't really predict the future, so again, it's a bit of a gray area. And again, I don't care if you pirate, this is more aimed towards the people who act smug or better for pirating. Even going back to the preservation thing, people say we need pirating to preserve media, but this only really applies to more niche things. Shows like Demon Slayer, Jujutsu Kaisen do not need to be pirated, and there's no risk of losing them. There are going to be thousands of copies of Blu-rays with them. The studios should keep them safe, so those shows don't need to be pirated. And with the rise of streaming, I understand that people are scared that they'll lose content since a show can be removed from a streaming service just like that. But we have tools to rip the video files from the streaming sites. We can even just record the videos with OBS. We don't need to pirate something to preserve it. Then once the streaming site takes it down, I think that would be appropriate for you to actually upload it online to be pirated. But the people who actually want to preserve media are a small subgroup of people. The larger group thinks they should be pirating because Crunchyroll is a bad service and a bad company. So let's just talk about the actual service Crunchyroll provides first, the quality of their video players compared to a pirating site. Now this video isn't about torrenting, that's a completely different situation, that's a lot more niche. I'm talking about video streaming alternatives like Kiss Anime. Those are the ones that are mainly used. And these websites are significantly inferior to Crunchyroll. I do hear people saying that Crunchyroll has pretty unstable video servers, but I've actually never had a problem with Crunchyroll. At least nowadays, I know their app used to be awful, but everything's pretty good now. I've never had any buffering problems, it's all been smooth sailing. But I've always had buffering problems using pirate sites. I remember in high school, maybe like halfway through an episode, it just started buffering and I'd have to reload the page. And the video players are a lot more stable these days, but even recently, my friend was watching an anime and his video would be buffering every 5 minutes. Not to mention that the bitrate on these sites are significantly worse than on Crunchyroll, so even at 1080p resolution, the videos will look a little muddy. And of course, we have all the porn ads on these sites. This one's a little bit more of an outdated argument. Now back when I was in high school, we would have ad blockers, and the ad blockers would not work 100% of the time. I would go through days at least where porn advertisers would work around ad blockers, and I would install multiple ad blockers and try to see what would work, and just nothing would work. And they'd have invisible ads all over the place. If you want to pause a video or play a video, you would get a pop-up. If you want to click the title of an anime, you get a pop-up. It was really frustrating. But it was free. Okay? It was free. It was not a better service, it was just a free service. And honestly, I've had more problems with these pirate sites over Crunchyroll. Like, I would understand if Crunchyroll and pirate sites have the same level of problems, and you would be like, oh, well, why would I pay for Crunchyroll if they both have problems? I'd take the free alternative. That makes sense. But Crunchyroll, yes, despite having its problems, has significantly less problems. That's what you're paying for. You still get convenience. It's not like pirate sites are perfect either. For example, Gridman Universe, when that movie came out, you could only watch that in 360p on any pirate site. It's like an HD now, but it took a while, okay? When the finale of Kaguya Lovers War Season 3 released, the last 2 episodes released on the same day. So episode 12 and 13 on the same day. And a bunch of pirate sites uploaded episode 13, but labeled it as episode 12. So I'm sure there are a good amount of people who missed out on episode 12 by accident. My friend was also trying to watch Gundam Unicorn once on the most popular pirate site in the world at the moment, and the dub and the sub of the first episode are mixed up. So if you press the sub option, you get the dub of the show with subs, and then if you press the dub option, you get the Japanese voice acting without subs. And generally, any series that hasn't been officially licensed has very terrible subtitles. I remember when Lupin the First got a home release. I think Brazil got it before America did, so someone threw the Portuguese subtitles into a translator, and then we got that for a while. So obviously the quality wasn't very good. And then when the movie actually came out in America, well, no one updated it. And even now, as I showed in the main video, the subtitles are still messed up somehow. They don't even have the audacity to have the better subtitles for ReZero Season 3. So if you guys didn't know, ReZero Season 3 has really bad subtitles on Crunchyroll. But there are a set of genuinely good subtitles that are being used in Asian countries because they have different localizers. And guess which subtitles these pirate sites are using? And I'll give you a hint, it's not the good ones. When Girls Band Cry came out, the first episode was subtitled using machine subtitling. I think it was released in France on Amazon Prime, so then someone took the Amazon Prime subtitles in French and then turned them into English. Then someone else stole those subtitles, inserted them with memes for some reason, so when a character said, "Once you give up, it's over," the subtitle said, "Once you give up, it's Jover." This became a big thing in the anime community, and eventually an actual fan subbing group took responsibility to subtitle Girls Band Cry. And the first episode still has not been updated with those better subtitles. They're still up there with the meme machine translated subtitles. At the very least, Crunchyroll is more likely to update their mistakes than pirate sites, okay? So if every mistake that Crunchyroll makes in the subtitling transfers onto a pirate site, and then let's say Crunchyroll fixes it, that's not going to be updated on the pirate site, okay? And also, generally speaking, Crunchyroll just has better formatting. So I was watching Jobless Reincarnation with some friends, and my friend was streaming. He pirates anime, he doesn't pay for streaming sites, so he was streaming from a pirate site. And in the first episode, the scene came up where Rudius was narrating, but there was also some people talking in the background. And the subtitles were all just stacked on top of each other at the bottom. There was no way to differentiate which line was belonging to Rudius and which line belonged to the background character. When you actually watch it on Crunchyroll, the background character subtitle is put on the top, so you know that they're not very important and that you should be listening to Rudius's dialogue, which is conventionally put on the bottom of the screen. So eventually I was just like, okay, bro, I'm gonna stream it on Crunchyroll, like, I'm not gonna watch it like this. So it's not like Crunchyroll and pirate sites are the same level of bad, but at least you're not paying for the pirate sites, and it's not like the pirate sites are better. Crunchyroll is objectively better when it comes to simply just watching the anime. Now there are some other stuff like Crunchyroll removing comments and maybe their search function isn't as good, but the actual experience of watching the anime comes first. That is the most important part, and that's where Crunchyroll is significantly better than pirate sites. And this is why I hate when people use the Gabe Newell quote to justify their pirating. Because Crunchyroll objectively has a better service. They are doing exactly what Gabe Newell said, but people are refusing to acknowledge it, and then they use that quote as an excuse to pirate. Not to mention that this pirating quote was used in the context of video games as well, which is like a significantly different medium from anime. Anime is easy to pirate because it's in a video format. Even if theoretically Crunchyroll had the best service, it's so much easier clicking on a link and pressing play than having to grab your credit card or log into your PayPal and subscribe to Crunchyroll. You're really not going to beat that unless you go beyond a streaming service and do some other crazy innovative thing, which at that point I feel like it's a bit too much to ask for. Now another thing is Crunchyroll wasn't like Netflix before. It was actually free, but with ads. It was like YouTube, you watch YouTube with ads and then you pay for YouTube Premium and get rid of the ads. You did have to subscribe for dubs though, and you did have to subscribe for simulcast, but the simulcast would be available a week later for free. Crunchyroll was providing everyone with free anime legally, and people were still pirating. And you can say with like Crunchyroll it was video ads and you didn't want to watch the video ad. Even if pirating streaming sites had ads, they were pop-up ads. You clicked on them and you clicked off quickly and you could get back to your video. But like I said, anime is a luxury. You have to pay for it or you have to give something in return, okay? The least you can do is watch it on Crunchyroll and see the ads. I don't like ads either, but I understand that I am consuming content that took thousands of dollars to make for free, and that the least I can do is watch ads. There's a significant difference between making a good service that's better than piracy services and catering to people who just want free stuff. And I'm someone who really enjoys niche content. Like, I love Lupin the Third. It's a very niche show, and where I live, we rarely get any like Blu-ray releases, so I have to buy them from America and use a region-free Blu-ray player. So I know it's very important to engage with something you like in a legal manner, because if you're just pirating stuff, it's gonna show a lack of demand in your country. And if you live in like a smaller country like me, that lack of demand means that licensors don't believe it's worth the risk publishing certain shows in our country. So it's crucial to show your support. Another thing I hear is that people complain that they have to subscribe to multiple streaming services to watch the anime they want to watch. And it's like, yeah, if you want more things, you have to pay for it. You know, if you have cable television, for example, if you want more channels, you have to pay for it. If you buy a Blu-ray disc, you can only play what's on that Blu-ray disc. You're not entitled to every anime ever just by subscribing to Crunchyroll. If you can't afford it, just strategically change subscriptions. Maybe one month you'll have Crunchyroll and then the next you'll change to Netflix to watch whatever they have. I think with the advent of the internet, we've gotten too comfortable with being just given everything we want. Again, because it is so easy to just upload an MP4 file onto a website, people can easily access anime. It's easy to use an ad blocker on YouTube because it saves you a few seconds per video. It's easy to call someone slurs online because you know you won't get punched in the face. People are getting too comfortable. Sometimes it's not a service issue, it's just the people who are pirating don't care. Everyday normal people, they don't care about preserving anime, they don't care about Crunchyroll being a better service than pirating, they don't care about supporting the shows that they love, and they don't care about the bad business practices from Crunchyroll. I think people just got comfortable with pirating, and then whenever Crunchyroll gets into some hot water, they're just like, oh, yep, I was right guys, you know, you shouldn't have trusted Crunchyroll. And that example with Chibi Reviews is perfect because he accidentally spread some misinformation and people easily believed in it, even though logically the information he spread was actually very normal. It actually doesn't put Crunchyroll in a bad light. Again, Chibi Reviews is chill. I mean, he's a bit of a rage beta, but he did what was right and retracted his statement and deleted the video. So no hate to Chibi there. So my point there is that the anime community is already conditioned to hate Crunchyroll. And basic human psychology dictates that once you already hate something, even if you don't know it, you're gonna subconsciously look for things negative about it to prove a point. I'm not saying Crunchyroll is a good company. I'm just saying we shouldn't be convicting thieves of being murderers. I do want to get into Crunchyroll being a bad company. Generally, yeah. Crunchyroll is pretty bad. There's a lot of discrimination, allegations against them. They refuse to work with a union when it comes to dubbing. And they were stealing mail, which is very bad. But honestly, the boycotting culture is it's dumb. I'm sure most of the people who are boycotting Crunchyroll because of their bad practices are not boycotting chocolate. Because the process of acquiring ingredients for making chocolate usually includes child slavery. And what about Studio Mappa and their poor business practices? Sometimes we hear about how animation productions get so intense that animators get hospitalized. This is a job that doesn't put your physical health at risk. How does that happen? Now, in American movies, people like actors and directors, they usually get residuals when they release their products. When a movie is later released on streaming or Blu-ray, for example, the profit gained from there, a percentage of that profit may go to the actors or the director or the producer. Now, firstly, I heard that this is not a thing in Japanese anime voice acting. And the Japanese voice actors actually get very little pay. For example, they could be paid $300 for a day's work. But because scheduling is done so poorly, they'll be asked to put 3 days aside. So realistically, they get $300 for 3 days of work. Not one, because they were specifically asked to put 3 days aside even though they only worked for 1 day. The anime industry is a terrible place to work. And as far as I know, Crunchyroll hasn't put anyone in a hospital yet. Yet people will spend hundreds of dollars on anime figures, and it's very likely that none of that money goes to the animation studios because they're not part of the process of making figures or merch. The most they do is provide the art for the merchandise. And even if they do receive a good amount of profits, they continue to underpay animators. Yet everyone bats an eye. You know why? Because that's how they get their content. Without these animators sacrificing basic work respect, they won't be getting anime. But with Crunchyroll, it's fine because they're just a localizer. And people just need an excuse to pirate, so they throw all this stuff at Crunchyroll and ignore all the problems going on in Japan. The best outcome for boycotting Crunchyroll is that there is one less bad company you're supporting. That's it. one less bad company over probably the hundreds that you have batted an eye to. Which brings me back to my point. People are not boycotting Crunchyroll because they think they're morally superior for doing so. I think they're just trying to find an excuse to pirate. I would have so much more respect for pirates if they just admitted they wanted free content and they were just being selfish. I cannot complain if you're being self-aware, like, okay, I guess that's it, that's just how you live in life, you're aware of it, okay, no problem. I would rather hear that than hear someone try to take a moral high ground when trying to justify their pirating. Now there's one more thing I haven't really touched on, and that's the localization issues. I think it is kind of hard to care about Crunchyroll's underpaid translators when people don't even like the translations themselves. And while I do think there are valid criticisms when it comes to Crunchyroll's translations, it's gotten to a point where it's overblown, and sometimes I'll see like the original translation versus the Crunchyroll translation. And then the original translation and the Crunchyroll translation will be basically conveying the same thing, just through different wording, but it'll basically mean the same thing. Translating one language into another isn't that simple. And with something as complicated as art, you have to have someone interpret what the Japanese language is saying, and unfortunately humans aren't perfect. Obviously there are people who don't deserve the job, like Katrina, who is infamously known for like changing things for no reason. But then we also have situations such as when Nagatoro said sus and then people got upset over that. Even though she was using the Japanese phrase for acting suspicious, and then she shortened the phrase to make it sound like slang. And because people have been conditioned to be outraged against English localizers, the discussion surrounding their accuracy is muddier than it should be. And let's be real, even if these translations aren't 100% accurate, they're probably like 99% accurate. They're probably extremely watchable and serviceable translations. Because with how many new anime are airing every season, I'm sure we'd be hearing a lot more outrage outside of ReZero Season 3 currently if Crunchyroll translations were that bad. Most people don't even think about art that deeply. They don't care about the specific wording of a scene that hard. The people who care about translation accuracy are a loud minority, and they probably only care because it supports their agenda. So if you're an anime pirate who feels like they're a better person for pirating, I want you to, I guess, reflect. After all that I said, do you still think you're better for pirating? Are you really receiving a better experience on these pirate sites? Do you think you're really helping by boycotting Crunchyroll? And are the 1% of wrong translations really affecting anime that much? Alright chat, that's all I have. Oyasumi nasai.